I am so happy that you're able to join us for this extended interview. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get more killer resources. Hey friend, are you looking to land a remote gig ASAP? Well, did you know that we not only have a ton of online jobs you can apply to on our site, but now we are also sending them straight to your inbox. I'm happy to announce that we will be sending our email subscribers legit online jobs every Wednesday. We have done hours of research so you don't have to. If you want to be the first one to hear about the remote gigs we find, go to theoffbeatlife.com to subscribe. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here for this extended interview with Matt, where he's going to share with us how to buy rental properties from anywhere in the world. Hey Matt, how are you?
Hey Debbie, so good to be here.
Thank you so much for about to tell us your amazing tips on how you were able to do this from anywhere. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit more about you and why you live an offbeat life?
Yeah, I live an offbeat life, first of all, because all of my academic and professional work experience background up until the age of 30 has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. I have a master's degree in international peace and conflict resolution. And I worked in the nonprofit advocacy space up until the age of 30. And I was doing really important work. And I was affecting positive change in the world. And I was really passionate about what I was doing, but I wasn't making a lot of money because I was working at a nonprofit. And so I said, you know what? I really should figure out how to do some investing, and specifically real estate investing. And so I started investing in real estate on the side and bought my first house to live in, rented out 3 bedrooms to friends of mine. And lo and behold, that house appreciated in a single year more than my entire annual salary that I made at my job. And I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. So then I started reading everything I could read about real estate, and I started buying out-of-state rental properties. And then I had my friends coming to me and they said, how are you doing that? Can you help us to buy out-of-state rental properties? And I said, sure. So I started helping my friends to do it. And all of this was going on while I was working at my job. And then one day, we had a change in management at work and everything got shifted around. Long story short, I walk into work one day and unexpectedly, totally blindsided, I get fired from my job at the age of 30. And it was super dramatic, right? Like they took my phone, I handed my laptop, all this stuff. So I'm literally walking out the door, getting into my car. I don't even have a phone to call anyone to tell them I got fired. So I'm driving to the cell phone store. And on that drive, I said to myself, I am not going to work for anybody else again, because this could just happen again. I'm going to figure out how to start my own business. And so what I knew how to do was help people to buy rental properties. I knew there was a demand for that. I understood that product and that service. And I started going to the bookstore and reading books on how to start a business. And what I realized was if I was able to start a real estate brokerage, I could continue to help my friends buy real estate and buy rental properties. And for that matter, anybody else, I could help any of customers buy rental properties, but I wouldn't have to charge them any money for the service, because in the United States, the seller pays all of the real estate commissions. So I was like, that's the perfect business model for me. I don't have to sell my friends anything. I can just add value and help them to buy rental properties and build their wealth. And I can get paid for it, but I don't have to charge them anything. I was like, that is the business model for me. And so then I realized that I didn't have all the skills to start that business on my own. And so I recruited 2 business partners that had complementary skill sets to me. And we founded Maverick Investor Group in 2007 to help individual real estate investors, regular people, buy rental properties as an investment. But the real value proposition is we help people to buy rental properties in the most investor advantaged U.S. real estate markets, regardless of where they live. And it's a completely turnkey buying opportunity. So all of these properties, it's all residential, so single family homes, sometimes 2 to 4 unit properties. They have been fully renovated and they already have qualified tenants in place paying the rent. And they have professional local property management. that's already managing the property. So they're collecting the rent, they're handling any maintenance calls from the tenants and all that kind of stuff. So you get to own the rental property and live wherever you want, and you don't have to be the rehabber or the landlord.
So for someone who is not familiar with how to do this, right? Obviously they should go to you first, but how would you suggest they get started in remote real estate and how to be able to do this sustainably and not be on the ground all the time, like what most people think real estate is?
Yeah, well, that's exactly why we created this business model, to help people leapfrog over all of the upfront, really high risk stuff and the really big headaches, right? So most people might think about, oh, I need to buy a distressed property and then I need to renovate it and then I need to find a tenant and then all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of risk in that, Debbie, because what if it takes you a lot longer than expected to renovate the property and you have all these holding costs? What if those renovations came in above what you estimated? What if it takes you a lot longer to find the tenant than you expected? What if that tenant doesn't pay as much rent as you thought they would? There's all kinds of these upfront risks in trying to do that yourself. And so the Maverick buying opportunity model is that people can just come to us, do a consultation with us. We talk to them about their personal real estate investing goals, their personal buying criteria, answer all their questions. And then when we help them buy a rental property, they don't close on that property until it has already been renovated by someone else at their expense, right? So it's going to already be renovated. It's already going to have a qualified tenant in place paying rent, and it's already going to have a professional property manager managing that property. So the buyer, our client, is just going to conduct their due diligence on the property. So they're going to do their own home inspection. They're going to do their appraisal. They're going to verify that lease, make sure that tenant is in place. They're paying this much rent. They've been qualified in this way. And once they verify all that stuff, all they have to do is verify it, right? Once they conduct their due diligence, then they close on the property. And as soon as they close, they cash flow from day one.
That's incredible. And that's the beauty of, like you said, your company is you do most of the work. And for a lot of people who are starting real estate investing, that's really the thing that stops them from going forward is everything, right? Because it is a lot of headache. There's so much to learn. And instead of wasting years of research and trying to figure out the right market, you all do it for them.
Yeah, I mean, and the market selection is important as well, right? So we're definitely not doing any properties in markets like New York City, for sure, because you pay so much money for the property in New York, but you can't rent it for a proportionately high amount, right? So your price to rent ratio in New York City would be disadvantageous to the investor. Okay. We are working in real estate markets that they have strong economic indicators. They have, job growth and population moving in, lower than average cost of living. But for the real estate, they are advantageous price to rent ratios. So you can buy nice detached single family homes, relatively low, and you can rent them relatively high. So you're optimizing your cash flow margin.
So when somebody is ready to move forward with this, and you mentioned they have to do their due diligence, they have to do their own research, how do they make sure that the property that they are buying, especially if they are not in that same state, they don't know what it's like over there, they don't know the neighborhoods, the areas, how do they know that they're buying in the right place?
That's a really good question, because the reality is that in any market in the United States, any major metropolitan area in the United States, the reality is that the majority of properties are not going to be a good investment. Okay. Even the markets that we are in, the majority of properties are not going to be a good investment. And that's for one of two reasons, Debbie. Either A, the properties are too expensive. So they're luxury, high-end properties that are very expensive, and you're not going to be able to get enough rent to cover all of your expenses and meaningfully cash flow. Same problem that you have in New York City, right? The other reason is because the properties are going to be too low end, and they're not going to be in good areas that are going to attract high quality tenants that are going to come in and stay for the long term and treat the property well. Okay. And your vacancy and maintenance and tenant turnover expenses are going to eclipse your cash flow margin and make it a non-profitable investment. So those are the two things that you want to avoid. So in any market, you want to go into what we call the real estate investor sweet spots, okay, where you're going to have optimal cash flow margins, and also they're in highly desirable areas that are going to attract quality long-term tenants, okay? And we work with local market specialists on the ground in every single one of these markets who are cherry picking these properties in these real estate investor sweet spots. And all of that information is going to be shared with you and conveyed with you. And that's part of why we do these phone consultations with folks.
Yeah. And also, do you guys help with negotiation? Because I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of when they are buying properties.
So here's the really cool thing. We are not finding these properties off of the MLS, right? Because the MLS doesn't list investment properties. They don't list fully renovated, tenanted, cash flowing, performing properties. Like that's not what it is, right?
But just also before you go into that, MLS is pretty much like anything that you and I could just go into, like Zillow or something, and it's for the public. So, right?
Sure.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's the multiple listing service, which is how a house in the United States would be listed and available for other real estate agents to find it. So
which
if you
means,
were going to...
Yeah, there's more competition, and most likely it's not going to be the best property for you to buy in most terms.
But it's also not going to be a performing rental property.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a tenant in place paying rent and all of that, right? It's going to be there and it's going to say this house is such and such, and usually it's going to be marketed to primary homeowners, and probably it'll need maybe some renovation or whatever, right? So all of the properties that are available through Maverick, they are off-market private buying opportunities that are not available to the general public. So we have relationships in these markets with these local market specialists, these property providers. These are separate, independently capitalized companies, and they're professionals at acquiring and renovating and leasing these properties out, and they do it at scale. Okay, so they're buying multiple properties at a time. They have their own construction crews. They're buying all their renovation materials in bulk. They're doing this professionally. And then once those properties are cash flowing and performing, they market them through Maverick Investor Group to our clients as a private off-market buying opportunity.
Wow. So when somebody is really into this, I mean, I'm listening to this and I'm like, where do I sign up, Matt? How much do you suggest they should have when they are ready to start investing?
Okay, so if we are I know you have listeners in a lot of different countries, Debbie, and so if we are talking about Americans who have a U.S. credit score and qualify for conventional financing, and they can get a mortgage, those folks are going to be able to get typically an 80% mortgage on a single-family rental home. Okay, so most of the rental properties that we're talking about, and this is going to shock people that live in New York City or San Francisco, but you can actually, in a lot of these Midwestern markets in the United States, you can actually get a nice, detached, single-family rental property with a yard in a nice majority owner-occupied suburban neighborhood for $150,000 US dollars.
Wow.
Right? So if you're going to get an 80% mortgage, 20% down on a $150,000 house is $30,000 plus your closing costs that you're going to have and your lender fees and that kind of stuff. So I would say, that if you're able to allot that much cash towards a real estate investment, you obviously want to save some money in your emergency funds or like whatever else for your personal expenses. But if you have, $40,000 investable cash, that is more than enough money to get into the game if you can get a conventional mortgage. And we have, by the way, preferred lenders. That part of that phone consultation we do with you is we introduce you to preferred lenders who specialize in doing loans on rental properties, right? And so they can pre-qualify you. They'll tell you this is your interest rate, this is what your closing costs would be. So you would know all of that in advance, and then you could go and buy your first rental property or your, fourth or fifth, or if you're already a real estate investor.
So how can someone make sure that they're not just doing this once, right? That they can keep doing this so that they do have more income coming in every month aside from just that one property? What if they want more than one property, multiple properties? How can they do that?
Yeah. So our entire business model and framework is based on long-term relationships with each of our clients. So everyone that comes in the door and they do a consult with us, our goal, and we tell them up front, we want to be working with you 20 years from now, right? That's our goal as a business, right? And we want to help you to build a portfolio of cash flowing rental properties. And we're able to help you do that over time and to diversify across markets, right? And that's important because the most advantageous real estate markets actually change over time, Debbie. So, a decade ago, back in, 2009, 2010 type period, you had markets like Phoenix, Arizona, which were super advantageous to buy in because that was one of the first markets to crash down through the floor, and you could buy really inexpensive properties that were really good quality. They were just recently built and they had this price crash, but the rental market didn't crash, right? People were still needed to pay to rent their properties, only the housing got a lot cheaper. So you could buy rental properties there, rent them out. You had a great price to rent ratio and all of that. And we helped a lot of our clients do that a decade ago. And those clients killed it. I mean, they did amazing. We have clients that bought there in Phoenix and their houses have doubled in price. Yeah. But you don't want to continue buying in Phoenix now because the rents didn't go up proportionately with those house prices. So now you'd be paying twice as much for a house, but not getting that much more rent. So that creates a process that squeezes your cash flow margin. If you were to buy today, you would have very little cash flow. But we have our clients that bought from us, 10 years ago in Phoenix, and today they're still buying from us, but just in different real estate markets. And so that's absolutely what we want to do. So if you want to start with one, or if you want to start with two or three, and then we'll talk to you about, building your portfolio. Do you want to buy one property per year? Do you want to buy one property per quarter? And then build that up. And how much do you want to diversify across these different markets and all of that? So that's exactly what we do and how we work with our clients.
I love that. And you have somebody to guide you and kind of hold your hand, because it can be a really tough place to be in, especially when you're investing your money in this. So, but it's a really good way to do that. It's one of the best ways to invest your money. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing with us all of these tips. If our listeners want to know more about you, where can they find you?
So if they want to learn more about the real estate investing and Maverick Investor Group and how we can support them, I want to invite everybody to go to maverickinvestorgroup.com/offbeatlife. And there you will find, first of all, a free report that you can grab on how to avoid the 7 biggest mistakes that real estate investors are making in today's market. And also you will see a button to register for a video consultation with us, which I would love for you to do so that we can get to know you. We can learn about you and your real estate investing goals and your buying criteria and all of that. You as well can get your questions answered from us, learn about the process, get to know us so we can decide if it's a good fit to work together and see how we can best help you meet your real estate investing goals. So that's just maverickinvestorgroup.com/offbeatlife.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Debbie.
I hope you enjoyed this extended interview with Matt. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get the full interview where he shares how he has been able to live as a digital nomad and create income as a remote real estate investor. Hey friend, have you been wanting to start a podcast? I know it can be overwhelming in the beginning. Believe me, I have been there. Lucky for you, we have created a new site called howtocreateapodcast.com that shares a ton of freebies that can help you get started. From launching, growing to monetizing, we share it all in one place. Visit howtocreateapodcast.com for more information. Thanks for joining me on this extended interview. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. We can also chat some more on Facebook at The OB Life. I'll talk to you soon.